The UCLA Department of World Arts and Cultures and Dance acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva peoples as the traditional land caretakers of Tavangar and is grateful to have the opportunity to work for the Tarahatom in this place. As a land grant institution, we pay our respects to Hunukvatem, Ahihorom, and Iyunhinkem, past, present, and emerging.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's event. We ask that you turn off all cell phones and electronic devices at this time. Still photography, video, and audio recording are not permitted. Please take a moment to look around for the available emergency exits. In case of an emergency, calmly proceed to the nearest emergency exit. We thank you for joining us tonight and enjoy the presentation.
I am the girl who moves like water, with an unshakable ability to nurture and destroy.
I am the dust dancing off polished oak and leather-bound tomes, like delicate whispers of the stories we've written together.
I am a lovely reprieve in a world unsweet.
I am the cry of 1,000 souls. I'm an homage to the lemons of life.
I am my strength, all wrapped up in a six-pointed beautiful story. I am my Jewish star. I am my fight for a voice in the crowd.
I'm looking at them, getting wet in the rain. I saw them running while smiling. I'm curious and confused.
I am the layers of color that constantly alter the composition of my mind.
I am in the middle of a natural disaster, trembling in awe before the sheer violence of beauty.
I am a kaleidoscope of people and places now known. In my room alone, I am far from it.
I am the softness of the light and the stillness of the plants. I feel so alive.
I am embraced by the feeling of not needing to worry about what is yet to come and comforted by the memories of my past.
I am a transformative metamorphosis of my mind over the years. I'm the cathartic understanding of finally enjoying spending time with myself. All right, welcome everyone. Hello, I'm Zizi.
And I'm Adam, and we are so happy to have you guys here. So many of you here, back here in Kaufman Hall for our UCLA Sex Squad pre-Valentine show event.
So this is one of our favorite traditions. Every year, barely a month into winter quarter, Sex Squad takes a stab at sharing our first poems, monologues, and scenes to kind of see what lands. After tonight, we'll be creating our new show for Los Angeles public high school students with performances continuing throughout spring quarter.
Our theme tonight is pleasure. Too often, sex ed is about icky diseases, STIs, and pregnancy prevention. Those things are important for sure, but we don't want to forget that the reason many of us have sex is to experience pleasure. Am I right?
So let's get started. This is who we are, the 2023 UCLA Sex Squad, with 3 car scenes. First, an improvisation, then a preview of our new Up to Us film, which is going to premiere right here on February 25th, and third, another improvisation, all about what happens in the backseat of a car.
Well, we're here. What do you think?
It's beautiful. Thanks for bringing me here.
I know, I bet nobody else knows what Mulholland is, but I found this place last week, and I had to show it to you.
Yeah, it's really pretty. I've never seen a view of LA like this.
I know, it's really nice. I mean, I know we only just got here a month ago, but I feel like a native, you know?
Yeah, I don't understand why LA natives hate transplants.
No, me neither.
Well, I'm glad I found you too. It's been crazy moving to college.
I know, I can't believe we just ran into each other during orientation, and now look at us, it's been so nice going on these dates with you.
It's been really nice.
So, what'd you think of tonight?
The food was really good.
I know we have really great food, but it was just so nice to go to a restaurant and you know, actually go on a date with you. That's, you know, outside of Kirkhoff.
Yeah. I don't know. I think next time we go get Italian, we have to do the little movie thing where they slurp it up together.
Oh, that's so cringe, but that's so cute at the same time. Yeah, but I really like you, and I'm really glad we're here.
I am too.
Well, I got the back seat of my car detailed last week.
Oh, what is that?
I don't actually know. A guy on Bruin came up to me, and he was like, oh, I can detail the back seat of your car. And I was like, what does that mean? He was like, I can make it look really spiffy for you. And I was thinking of you, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I need to go detail the back seat of my car. And then here I am. So yeah, do you like it?
Well, it looks pretty nice. Yeah. Good decision.
Thank you. Well, would you want to see it closer? With me?
You know, maybe when we get back, I'm kind of digging the view from this front seat.
It is a really nice view, but I was kind of thinking you would be a prettier view.
Oh, I mean, you can see me pretty well right now, right?
I know, but, you know, have you not been in the back seat of a car before?
Oh. I mean, am I getting you right? No, I haven't.
You've never sat in the backseat of a car before?
Never mind. I've never had sex before.
Oh, with someone like me or ever?
Just ever.
Oh, Lawrence. I've never had sex before either.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to pressure you into anything, and if you don't want to, it's totally okay. But I would really like to have this experience with you and try it out.
Yeah, I'm so nervous. Like, I don't know what to do. They never.
Me neither. So what do you say?
This feels right. Let's check out the backseat of your car.
Okay, let's go!
Wow, I can't believe we just did that.
I know, that was really crazy.
Yeah, I can't believe I could spread my legs that far back.
Yeah, that was something to see. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up?
Oh, nothing. I think we should actually head home. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. I mean, why do we need to stick around?
I mean, what we did was just wild. You know, maybe we could take some time to relax together.
Oh, well, I have that episode of The Bachelor waiting for me when I get home, so, I gotta head out pretty soon.
I mean, The Bachelor sounds nice, but I prefer to spend some more quality time with you.
And I would love that. But do you see that bird up there? Do you see that? That is the biggest bluebird I've ever seen in my life. Good God.
How are you able to see, in the dark like that? I can barely see that.
No, it's the contacts that I just got. Very strong.
Okay.
Wow.
Are you sure everything's okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Why do you keep asking me? Pushing it. Jeez.
I don't know. It's it felt like something was happening to you when we were doing it.
I'm fine, okay? I'm fine.
Well, there's no need to be so hostile towards me. I just want to make sure that you're okay.
Hostile?
Yeah.
You think I'm being hostile?
A little bit, and you're kind of being a little jerk too.
Oh, wow, okay. I can't do anything. Now I'm being a jerk? Great.
Listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a jerk. I just want to make sure that you're all right. I really care about you.
You really want to make sure I'm okay?
Yes.
You really care about me?
Of course.
Well then, maybe can you hold my hand?
Of Of course, babe.
Well, you know when we did that wild thing and your legs went all the way back like that? It was insane. I couldn't believe you did that. It kind of reminded me of something that maybe wasn't so nice and fun and special, you know?
Babe, I'm sorry to hear that. I never want to make you feel uncomfortable. Please, next time tell me if something doesn't seem right so that we could take a break and just talk about it a little bit, you know?
You'd be willing to take a break and talk about it with me?
Of course. What's the point of us enjoying this special, intimate moment if we're not both enjoying it?
Well, I didn't want to stop because you were having so much fun, but yeah, I'll talk to you next time.
Of course. You're so special to me.
And you're special to me too. I'm glad we met.
I still remember the first day in class when I laid eyes on you.
Oh.
You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Oh. And you're the most wonderful thing to come into my life. I'm so happy we're together.
I am too.
Thank you for being patient with me.
Of course, anytime. I love you.
I love you.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Good. All right. Well, we've been talking a lot about getting lucky, but now it's time to talk about what you need to say in order to get lucky. Come on out, Sex Squad. Yeah. This is a song you might recognize. Maybe you heard it super recently, but this is a song about consent. Are we ready? Sounds like an enthusiastic yes to me. Consent is the name of the game when you ask for voluntary permission, but consent's so much more than some plain, never-changing act or condition. You see, you gotta keep the talking going to keep those consent juices flowing. Some people say it's really awkward, but I strongly disagree. Here are some really funky phrases to keep consent raunchy. You wanna give it a go? Can I give you a blowjob? Does this really, really, really turn you on? Do you have time for a quickie? Can I give you a hickey? Do you want me to put a condom on? If this kind of chick, there is no problemo. These phrases of consent are not so lame-o. So if you wanna be safe and also sexy like me, use these phrases and you'll be safe and sexy. Great job, everybody.
Ima, the Hebrew word for mom. Maybe it was because I was grappling with two different cultural identities, but I like to use Ima and mom interchangeably. My Ima is a strong-willed lady who has been through more trauma in life than any single person should have to face. My relationship with my mom is filled with light, warmth, and love. But when she uttered the three-worded phrase, "Don't get AIDS to me," well, it stung. I remember those words as if my coming out were yesterday. It was a hot summer day, and I pulled her aside, and it took all the courage in me to utter the words, "I'm gay." "Don't get AIDS," she uttered back to me. She wasn't thinking about her son Adam. She was griping with the unreasonable fear of AIDS as a plague specific to the gay community. She just didn't want me to be plagued, I guess. 5 years later, I am older and wiser and more comfortable in my own skin. And if I could write a love letter to my younger self, my 5 years ago self, I would say two things. 1, feelings help you rise above. 2, your sexual experiences just can't be compared to others. Stop comparing yourselves to other people and their lives and live your life on your own and embrace it to the fullest. Don't get AIDS. Ema's words stung, and I'll never forget it. But I felt my feelings and I rose above. And you know what? I love you, Mom. I love you so much. And I love myself too.
Coming from Indonesia, growing up in a religious and conservative environment family, make me have no choice but to remain discreet about my sexual orientation as a gay man. Aside from that, sharing and opening up even to my close friends in and outside school is not easy. The only sex education I learned was about women and men's reproductive system, where each other have sex, men to have babies. My family and I never talk about sex activities since my family is very religious. They expect me to have sex with women only after I get married and to have biological children to nurture and build a family. Many young people are not receiving adequate education about how to protect themselves from HIV. This can leave young people with incomplete or incorrect information about how to prevent the transmission of HIV. And it can also contribute to the stigma and shame surrounding the topic. That is why we must invest in comprehensive and inclusive sex education programs that provide young people with accurate information about HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases and the scale and resources they need to make informed and healthy decisions about their sexual health. You might have heard people say mean things about people living with HIV, or you might have heard them call names that are not nice. But you need to know that this is not okay. And it is not true. People living with HIV are just like you and me. And if you get HIV, there are medications that can help you stay healthy and live a long life. But even more important than that is to remember that HIV does not define a person. People living with HIV are not different from anyone else and deserve to be treated with kindness and compassion. As a nursing student at UCLA, I ask you, let's all do our part to help stop the stigma surrounding HIV by advocating for sex education programs that are comprehensive, inclusive, and evidence-based. Let's treat everyone with respect and kindness, no matter who they are or their health status. I want every one of us in this room, let's strive together to create a future where HIV is no longer a threat to anyone's health and well-being. I came from Indonesia, and today I'm studying in the United States. It made me realize the privilege of being free on whatever I want to do, whoever I want to be. Therefore, I choose to continue to advocate, becoming an advocate to fight against the stigma and discrimination that still exists around HIV and AIDS. Thank you.
Adam and David, thank you so much for talking to us about stigma, which is not an easy subject, is it? I'm David Gear. I'm the director of the Art and Global Health Center, and I also am the co-teacher of a course called Arts Encounters. Does anyone know that class? Yeah, I thought maybe. Glad you're all here. Thank you, Arts Encounters, for coming, and all the other folks who are here as well. I feel very lucky to be surrounded by UCLA colleagues, ready to talk about the stigma associated with not just HIV, but with the three current epidemics that are overlapping, that is HIV, COVID, and MPX, or monkeypox. Dr. Ian Holloway is a UCLA professor of social welfare who has attended closely to the MPX, or monkeypox, epidemic. Dr. Chaitali Mukherjee is the director of the ASH Student Health Center and a member of the campus COVID and MPX response groups. Dr. Ipi Kalafanas is chair of the Global Health Minor. And Anushka Saraf is a student member of the LGBTQ Campus Resource Center. As we just heard from Adam and also from David, stigma is a huge issue in our personal lives, fomenting irrational fear and working in opposition to good public health. I'm going to start with Ian asking a question, if that's okay. Ian, when MPX or monkeypox appeared in the scene, which was really, it's crazy, it's just a year ago that it did, you wrote an editorial for the American Journal of Public Health. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the essence of your argument and what it was that you were writing about, but also with a focus on the role that stigma played in the way that the epidemic rolled out.
Yeah, thank you, David, for inviting me to be a part of this event, and it's great to be here with other UCLA colleagues. So the essence of the piece that I wrote was to kind of make some comparisons between what we were experiencing with Mpox, that's how I'll refer to monkeypox, Mpox, in the early days of that outbreak, and the other public health crises that have faced gay and bisexual men and other men who have sex with men, including HIV and invasive meningococcal disease, or IMD. So the argument of the piece was that we, at the time, were experiencing shortages of vaccinations. And unlike COVID, we actually had a vaccine that was available, although not in large supply. There were shortages at the beginning of this outbreak. And we had some really good public health tools that were developed throughout the decades since we first confronted HIV. And so I was kind of advocating for using the lessons learned from the 80s and 90s to apply to the Mpox outbreak. And some of those lessons included battling stigma. So many folks will remember last summer and throughout this most recent outbreak of Mpox, gay and bisexual men were the community most impacted. And we know, because we've had a very complicated relationship with public health as communities of queer people, but especially gay men, that there are ways that are not helpful to public health efforts, including testing and, in the case of Mpox, vaccination. So one of the strategies that I advocated for in this piece was to use opinion networks, or an intervention called Popular Opinion Leader networks, to educate communities of gay and bisexual men about Mpox without stigmatizing them further. And unfortunately, after the kind of first month or so of the Mpox outbreak, we were seeing and hearing a lot of negative messaging about this being a gay disease, kind of echoes from those early days of HIV. And there were people like celebrities and politicians who were using those words and characterizing the virus in that way. And that's a challenge, because we know that the more that a disease is stigmatized, the less likely people are going to want to come in and get tested for that, the less likely people are going to think that vaccination campaigns, which could protect them, are applicable to them. And so I was trying to make the case that we, as a community of gay men, need to be open and provide accurate information about Mpox, but also to educate our friends and our sex partners. So there were some echoes of that idea in the performances we just saw, that kind of open communication about something that can be challenging to talk about. In this case, an infectious disease was something that could be really useful in combating the outbreak. And we saw on social media, especially folks who'd been infected with mpox actually talking about their experience, talking about the challenges and how painful it was and how they faced difficulties getting treatment. And those stories actually were really helpful in advocating for a better public health response, in addition to destigmatizing something that had been labeled by so many as something that only affects gay and bisexual men or men who have sex with men. And so I hope that message was was clear. And if there's anybody who's interested in reading that piece, I'm happy to share it.
Ian Holloway in the American Journal of Public Health. There's actually one other thing that I want to ask you in relation to this, and that is the name itself of the epidemic.
Yeah.
You were advocating for a different way of describing it. I wondered why.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the WHO renamed monkeypox to mpox, but there was a lot of debate over the course of the past year. MPX was proposed, MPV, monkeypox virus, and they settled on mpox. And one of the reasons was to try and destigmatize the condition. So many of you may have seen in the early days of the outbreak, the media was presenting a lot of pictures of black hands with pox virus outbreaks. So there was not only kind of a stigma related to sexuality, but also a racist element to some of the messaging around mpox. And for those of you who don't know the history, the disease is actually mostly carried by rodents, but it was first observed in monkeys, and that's why it was given the name monkeypox. And this was really the first large outbreak outside of like kind of a Central African and West African outbreaks that have occurred and where the disease is endemic. And so the WHO chose to rename the condition. I think that was a good move. So mpox is the way that they've encouraged us to refer to it.
Thank you. I want to ask a question now to you, Chaitali, if I could. As the director of the Ash Student Health Center, you've been front and center in responses on campus to actually all three of these epidemics. Certainly COVID, what a couple of years it's been for you and for everyone who's working with you on your team, and mpox, but also HIV as an ongoing campus concern for individuals. So this is a biggish question. I hope you don't mind my asking you to tackle it, but why do you think it is that there's so much stigma surrounding these epidemics, these three? And also, I almost wonder whether there's a function that you think stigma serves. Is there any good function that it serves, or is it all on the negative side?
Well, I would say a lot of it is a lack of knowledge, fear, kind of the need to blame someone, and especially, I would say, in the more recent past with the advent of like social media, just gossip, and it's always been there, misinformation being spread through various methods. It can really take a life of its own. And so I think a lot of those elements are what have contributed. There's many, I would say, kind of archetypes of where these prejudices and stereotypes come from. Some of it is embedded in, racist stereotypes, prejudices, morality-based biases that people have developed over the course of time or in the messaging they've seen. But many of the, a lot of the ignorance, I would say, related to just not understanding how the diseases are actually transmitted has contributed to that. So a lot of it is just misinformation, lack of knowledge, and just when you don't know something, the unknown really leads to behaviors that are fear-based, and that can be, really contributing to the perpetuation of these stigma. As far as the question you mentioned about, is there any benefit? Now, Ian touched on a lot of this as far as the detrimental impact, I think, of the stigma in general. It's not good for anyone because you have barriers to, actually understanding, because it becomes a block. You think it doesn't apply to you. And so you may not seek out the resources you need, obtain the health care that you need, may be scared to ask the questions because you're afraid of being othered. And many of the people who have been stigmatized by this have many intersections of their identity that put them at a disadvantage to receiving the care they need already, whether it's economic, geographical, and many things related to the resources that their communities get. The one thing I have seen when I came up in my medical training, it's happened in, I would say I'm kind of mid-career at this point, but when I was in medical school, my goodness, what we had to treat HIV, for example, was so minimal. And to have it just come full circle and see now that we have PrEP, you know, the ability to prevent HIV and so many effective tools, it's really been remarkable. But what I can say, it was a long journey to get to this point. And one of the things we can leverage, I think, related to stigma is the solidarity and the communities that have been impacted. It allows us to be able to mobilize, I think, in a way with the lessons we've learned. So kind of how I think with MPOX, I mean, I think while it started off a little rocky because of a variety of things, the timing of it was such where the public health infrastructure, I think, was quite strained because of COVID. But we were eventually able to get those, you know, vaccines into the communities, make it more accessible. We have it at the ASH Center. It took a little bit to pivot because there were resources. Public health is notoriously underfunded, so there was a lot to do. But a lot of the lessons, as far as messaging, we were able to, I think, correct some of the errors that were made early on because we're more aware of it. A lot of the things that I think made it so difficult in the early years with HIV, I think we were able to just be more aware of it. So I think that, you know, that's what I would say. As far as the stigma, it's, you know, it's detrimental, but at least if we can leverage that solidarity and the communities, I think it is a way to reframe how we approach different outbreaks, epidemics, and issues that may emerge in the future because you've strengthened those relationships in the communities so you can react in a more effective and impactful way, I think, if you learn those lessons and are willing to confront the difficult questions and deal with the root causes, I think, of what has led to whether it's a lack of resources, prejudice, and stereotypes. You just have to be willing to unpack it, I think. And then sometimes in the early phases, there's a lot of, like I said, fear and panic and misinformation. So if you can combat those things, then you can kind of get to the root structural issues that are preventing people from getting the care they need.
Right. I actually hear an echo as you're speaking of the anthropologist Mary Douglas, who talks about stigma being advantageous from the standpoint that it's a protection, but it's ridiculous if it becomes a protection and it involves ignorance. If the truth is you don't have to be protected in the ways that people in the early years of HIV thought they had to be, for example. You know, being afraid of kissing or touching or sharing utensils, but of course that was all ridiculous. It was based on no information or misinformation. So as you point out, that's the job of the people who work in the health field, as all of you do in one way or another, to dispel those ignorances. Thank you for doing it. Ippy, I wanted to pass along to you now if I could. It happens that you teach a huge number of students in that global health minor. It's a very large minor. In fact, I think it might be the largest of minors on campus now or close to it. Plus you have a psychiatric practice at the VA, which is of course the Veteran Affairs Medical Center. So I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about what you hear about stigma, the references to stigma that you hear from both students and clients, and what you think is the best way to address and dismantle stigma based on that experience.
So, you know, it's not, I think it's funny because people don't often say, you know, oh, let's talk about stigma, right? I want to talk about the stigma. It's actually stigma, I think, comes out of not having a language to talk about something or being afraid, right, of confronting something or talking about something. And so, you know, I think I thought sort of the performances today was this powerful demonstration of a way to combat stigma, which is actually having a language, and having a space where it's okay to sort of be honest and ask questions. And in my work, where I sort of see that happening, and where I see sort of stigma being combated or confronted, has been in a couple places come to mind that are actually very different but very similar kind of settings. One was in my work I did, I'm an anthropologist here, a PhD in anthropology, and I worked in Mozambique in the early days of the antiretroviral therapy when HIV/AIDS treatment first was available in Mozambique. And back in the 90s and early 2000s, before there was treatment, right, in Africa, because it was too expensive, AIDS was a death sentence, and HIV was feared, and so there's a lot of stigma, and people would talk a lot about the stigma. And one of the things that was developed, or one of the interventions to confront stigma, was starting support groups of people living with HIV, and these groups would come together and just sort of exchange experience. And those groups actually became the place where I ended up hanging out most during my research in Mozambique. And it was so common where people would come to these groups and just, for the first time, and say, oh, I swore, I was sure I was the only one. I was sure I was the only one going through this. And I didn't realize you could actually, have a life with HIV. I didn't realize you could talk about it like this. And it was like a quarter, a fifth of the people in these areas had HIV. But, there was so much fear to talk about it, and people just didn't have a language to talk about it, that they really, and it was really coming together and creating these safe spaces where people could just be honest about what they were going through, and sort of role model, and sort of together kind of, it's not that they needed to be given scripts, but they just need to be given a space to just try to verbalize their experience with each other, and kind of together construct a language, together construct a way of talking about it. And then they would leave these groups, feeling more confident, feeling more secure, and more willing to talk with their friends and families about what they were going through. And so I think that's, I think that's really the way to address, confront stigma, is really sort of just having a space where we can sort of talk about the unknown, and especially where people who are having an experience that they're being told isn't okay, really having a space where you can share that and connect with peers, connect with others who are also going through it. I mean, in my current work, that peer relationship is really important in mental health. And so I also now run groups for veterans with schizophrenia, and it's the same exact thing. Veterans come to these groups and they say, oh, I've never talked to another person who heard voices. I thought I was the only one. And I didn't realize I could actually meet someone and talk about this experience. And in these groups, people, construct this language, and you see them over time just developing the confidence, and sort of keep using those groups as support. And then, and so I think it's, so I feel like it's really creating these spaces where it's, it's okay to talk about these things, and it's building that solidarity, where in both those groups, in Mozambique and, at the VA, when, I would sort of check in with people who've been in those groups for a while, what's the strongest thing about these groups? What's the most powerful thing about these groups for you? And again, people would say, it's just knowing I'm not alone, and knowing I'm not the only one, and knowing I can come to this place and be heard and be understood. And I think, the way, so I think in sort of the classroom, and meeting with students, I think it's really trying to create this space where it's okay to talk about these things, and okay to, to just, be honest about these experiences, and it's a lot of it being non-judgmental and just being curious, and again, and kind of normalizing it, that these are all human experiences,
You're making such a good case for the group therapeutic experience on the one hand, but also for participation in groups like Sex Squad. And I don't want to speak for the members of the group. At some point, probably in a future event, we'll ask them to talk more about what this has been like for them. But that is something that I hear frequently from students in Sex Squad, that it's such a relief to be with a group of folks where you can just have open conversations about things that are otherwise taboo or difficult.
Well, I was so inspired by watching it today. I thought that was amazing. Just role modeling that kind of open conversation. I thought that was totally inspiring. So I thought that was really great.
Sweet. So now that leads us to Anushka. So before closing our panel, I want to share a short video testimonial. Oh, and you luckily were privy to this in a longer form earlier today, so that you're not having this pulled on you at the very last moment, but almost the last moment. So this testimonial is from Aninha. And Aninha participated in our Through Positive Eyes photo storytelling project in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, about 10 years ago. Thanks to Hani Ress and also to Isaiah Biceri, who's here on the side of the stage. And actually, can we give a hand to Isaiah for all the work that he's been doing? Yeah. The two of them, Hani and Isaiah, spoke to Aninha last week and produced the video that we're about to see. It is longer. It was cut down into about 3 minutes or so. And Anushka, after you've seen this form of it, repeating from what you saw earlier today, I want to ask you for your reaction from a student's perspective.
Eu sou Aninha, tenho 54 anos de idade e participei do projeto Olhares Positivos em 2009. Agora eu estou morando em São Paulo. Eu descobri meu HIV, eu era muito jovem, né? E eu estava grávida. Eu fiquei muito assustada com essa notícia. Para mim, era uma sentença de morte. Não tinha muita medicação na época e não tinha muitas políticas públicas para mulheres grávidas com HIV. E eu estava gerando uma nova vida. Foi uma experiência muito estranha, né? Porque eu estava com uma sentença de morte e estava gerando uma nova vida. Algumas doenças oportunistas. Eu não sabia quando eu iria ter um aborto espontâneo. Mas, para minha surpresa, eu tive a maior alegria da minha vida. O bebê nasceu e o bebê testou negativo para o HIV. Eu vivi minha vida toda com HIV. Então, quase 30 anos depois, veio uma nova pandemia, a pandemia do Covid. E agora minha vida atravessou mais uma pandemia. Seriam 2 pandemias e eu sou sobrevivente de ambas. Eu fiquei viúva 2 vezes. A primeira vez, fiquei viúva pela AIDS, e a segunda vez, recentemente agora, fiquei viúva pela Covid. Eu vivi 2 períodos de luto. Ficar viúva por AIDS foi muito difícil. Eu fico emocionada, pois todos ficaram sabendo que o meu marido tinha morrido de AIDS e todo mundo ficou sabendo também que, por consequência, eu também tinha o vírus. E aí eu sofro muito preconceito. Ficar viúva por Covid foi um pouco diferente, mas foi muito difícil, porque falando um pouco do vírus HIV, ele foi conhecido como uma maldição para as pessoas que faziam sexo de forma pecaminosa, né? Enquanto a Covid foi um vírus para todas as pessoas do planeta. Isso fez a diferença para desenvolver rapidamente uma vacina para a Covid. 2 pandemias, 2 vírus, e o preconceito ainda está com um deles, e não deveria estar. Levei tempo para reunir forças para começar de novo. Às vezes, ainda é difícil pensar no futuro, mas sou uma sobrevivente. Ser uma sobrevivente, para mim, significa que sou uma pessoa especial, escolhida pelo universo. Passar por 2 pandemias, adquirir esses 2 vírus mortais e ainda ajudar outras pessoas a serem fortes e enfrentar todas as dificuldades que a vida oferece. Acreditar na ciência e ter adesão ao tratamento. Eu sou uma pessoa de muita sorte, principalmente como mãe de um filho tão especial. Ele é a minha maior alegria e eu posso encontrar muita força, né? Muita força em meu filho. Uma pessoa muito abençoada por ter tido a oportunidade de ser mãe de uma pessoa tão forte que faz a diferença, né? E que fez a diferença entre a minha vida e a minha morte.
Yeah, I think that video was a testament to how two different pandemics and epidemics were treated based on who it affected and how it affected them. And I think it goes to show, especially in the longer video, she talks more about how her husband died, her first husband died of AIDS, and they didn't know till the absolute end because he was ashamed of it and he didn't want to talk about it. And her pain was very much rooted in that he didn't get the treatment he needed because of the stigma that surrounded AIDS at the time and still. And then it also goes on to show that COVID, when it hit, it was widespread, it affected everybody, but it was also very visual versus HIV/AIDS, which doesn't get visual till later. And I think in communities that are not experts, it's very easy to not pay attention to something that you can't see. And I think that it's so important to have education awareness initiatives, and especially sex ed in school, like the Sex Squad talked about before, that doesn't only include a female and a male and a biological child and how to prevent that, but all sorts of relationships, an inclusive, comprehensive account of what these relationships are, how to have them safely and how to maintain them safely. And I think it also goes to show how the mpox epidemic more recently, I was at the forefront of it. I worked as a COVID screener at an urgent care, which the same job turned into mpox screener right after. And it was funny to see how with COVID, people had like mostly accepted it. It was widely understood. It was racialized for sure, but people were like, sure, like take my temperature. But when it came to mpox, any questions that even gave the hint that that was what I was trying to screen for, it was immediately met with apprehension, and a lot of times people would not want to cooperate. And I think that again goes to show just how much there is still stigma surrounding these issues that are targeted at specific communities. And I think it is a job for education and public health policies and campaigns to highlight just how widespread this is, and even if it doesn't affect you personally, it's widespread enough that it affects you somehow in your life at some point. And that's something that I think she really highlights in comparing the two pandemics.
Thank you so much, Anushka. A hand for her, please. Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to reference one other layer that's very much on my mind and heart, which is that I was with Anina all those years ago when she was first talking about her own HIV status and the fact that her husband had died. And just to realize that she had to go through a second death of a loved one, I'm sure she's not the only one in the room who's had such an experience. And so I just want to reach out to her metaphorically and to any of you who've gone through that suffering. It's tough to lose through this disease, any of the epidemics that we've talked about, the deep pain that we feel when we lost someone. Let me say in closing that the significant thing, of course, that has just happened is that you have participated in stigma-smashing. And I hope that you will, all of you, use that in your resume now, that you participated in the stigma-smashing, successfully stigma-smashing panel. And I'm so grateful to you all for your intelligent, sensitive contributions to this panel. Thank you. Thank you. And now there's more.
Yeah, thank you so much. After listening to that conversation, I'm feeling really grateful, really grateful that we got to have this conversation and make this space that we were talking about. I feel like have all these new insights and burning questions and things that I want to learn and talk about now. Yeah.
Me too, and thank you for that, Cece, because it leads me to this idea of community building and how community acts as this force to, not only sometimes it festers stigma, but it can also, in a proactive way, destigmatize and act as a call to action. So I hope all of you take that when you leave.
Yeah.
And with that,
so to close our lovely V-Day show tonight, we have a fresh version of a UCLA Sex Squad classic scene. So without further ado, ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, I invite to the stage Brendan Drake and the UCLA Saxophonic Choir.
Woo! Hi. Oh my God, I'm so shy. It's like, it's so daunting. Hi, everybody. My name is Brendan Drake. I'm one of the co-directors of Sex Squad this year and last year. I am a second-year MFA candidate in, what am I getting a degree in? Choreographic Inquiry. Who said that? Thank you. I'm getting an MFA in Choreographic Inquiry at UCLA, Department of World Arts and Cultures. I will bow for that. Thank you. And I just want to, and I'm saying that because my choreographic research almost solely concerns like the social development and futurity of within queer spaces and how world building within those spaces is actually this like really holistic healing process. And I got to witness that this summer with the way that like my community really like stepped up for each other during the monkeypox outbreak. I also want to shout out the Ash Health Center. I go there every 3 months. Where are my prep girlies at? Okay, cool. Just me? Great. Well, happy Valentine's Day to me. So we're going to do, aren't they cute? We're going to do this really fun thing called the Saxophonic Choir. So we're going to pull up a slide and so just show of hands, who can tell me or us or the room what these words all share in common? Like what's the nucleus of these words? Don't all speak at once. Yes? You. Yes. What's your name? Madison. Talk to me. That's correct. Did everybody hear that? So these are the fluids that transmit HIV when no barrier method is present. What are we missing? Like what's not on this list? Saliva is not there. What else is not there? Well, needles would possibly you could absolutely get HIV by sharing needles, but yes. Tears, who said tears last week? Zizi was like, you can't get HIV from tears. No, you cannot. So what we're gonna do to help remember these words, I might call this a participatory exercise. So thank you for all staying to the end because you are in for a treat. So each of these words, the Saxophonic Choir is a way that we kind of just introduce the high school students to these words and also kind of get them out of their like uncomfortable, sexist, icky vibes when they walk in. But each of these words have a gesture and a sonic way to say them. So we'll learn them all to start. We're going to start with the first one, which is, I'll give you 4 for nothing.
Anal mucus!
Anal mucus.
Anal mucus!
So it's shoving forward. It's a downward shove.
Mucus!
Let's all do that together. So anal mucus. We're shoveling. We're driving it down. I don't see a lot happening in that corner. Can we get a little bit more? There we go. And shout it out. Anal mucus. Anal mucus. We're all friends here. Thank you. So that's anal mucus. So then we have, I'll give you 4 for nothing. Pre-cum. 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 So you're snapping. You're a shark, you're a jet. Snapping. Pre-cum. 5, 6, 7, 8. Pre-cum. 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 Good. Good. We got that. God, it's a room of just like headliners, I can tell. And then we have 5, 6, 7, 8.
Female! Female!
Out the spout.
Female!
Show me.
Female!
There it is.
Female!
The high school boys love that one. And then this is for those practicing the dark arts in the room, maybe some vampires. We've got... It's silky, it's smooth, it can be sexy if that's what you're into, right? It's a river, it's a crimson river. And then we have, bet you didn't know this one until you saw this. 5, 6, 7, 8.
Breast milk!
2 circles.
Breast milk!
So you can like, so you can make the circle and maybe you can lean to the person to your right or left and make a set, you know? Yes, exactly. Good, David. And then last but certainly not least, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's another whooshing, but this time instead of whooshing from behind, we're whooshing frontal. So it's a frontal whoosh. Vaginal fluid, vaginal fluid, vaginal fluid, vaginal fluid. Good. There'll be a pop quiz on this in David's class next week. I will be there. I'm just kidding, I won't be there. Oh my God. Okay, so now we're gonna do it together. You can just like join in if there's a word that really resonates with you. Like if tonight you're just like, oh, I am embodying anal mucus. I'm embodying pre-cum. You know, I just feel free to chime in. And it is of course optional participation, but it's just fun to like. When are you gonna have the opportunity to scream these words in like a collective moment, right? Okay, cool. Holding it. There you go. Yeah, go ahead.
If it's okay with you, I'll put a condom on this.
I think safety first. Now, I know what you're thinking. This baton seems smaller than average. But actually, this is the average size of most batons. So the average size of a baton is about 5.5 inches, 3.5 if you're flaccid. And usually orchestras don't need that much to conduct. And I mean, I can only speak from personal experience. This does the job. Not this specific baton, but just, anyway, okay, so I have been waiting to do that joke all night. I came up with it somewhere like in one of the car scenes. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna love that.
Ain't no mucus! Ain't no mucus! Ain't no mucus! Ain't no mucus! Pre-cum! 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 Female! Female!
Thank you so much, everyone, to coming to our show. Thank you again. Give the team a big round of applause. Please give a big round of applause to our lighting and sound crew also, please. Thank you. All right, that's it for our show tonight. If you're a family member or friend or loved one of our Sex Squad up here, feel free to come down and say hello. The rest of you, thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you.